Welcome to Cybersecurity Sense, a weekly podcast providing updates and insight into the latest in cybersecurity. Brought to you by LBMC Information Security. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to Cybersecurity Sense. This is your host, William Parks, and today we're going to be talking about HITRUST. I had a call recently with one of the shareholders, Robyn Barton, to go over what it really is, what it involves, who it applies to, and there are some new standards that are out that companies can now comply with. So it's a phone call that I have with Robyn Barton. It is recorded, so the quality is not going to be as A1 and crisp as this microphone, but that is A-okay. It's good stuff that a lot of people need to know and hear about, and frankly, I learned about it because I don't know anything about it. So enjoy the call. Here it comes. It's going to start here in a second, and I hope you guys enjoy the episode. All righty. Good morning, Robyn. How's it going?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Good. All right. So, as we talked about in the intro, I don't know much about HITRUST, so you're going to be my informant here of teaching me really what this thing is about. Because I know I dabbed into it a little while ago, around my first few internships I worked here. So, just to give me a good little refresher, what is HITRUST?
Sure. Great question. HITRUST is essentially the HITRUST CSF is a risk management framework. So
Okay.
it has initial roots in healthcare, right? Several years ago, 2007-ish, or several members of various healthcare organizations got together with the intent to create HITRUST, the organization, which then began working on the Common Security Framework, which is now referred to as the CSF. And the idea is that it initially built on ISO 27001 and 2 and other information security and privacy standards and authoritative sources. So now it's gone beyond healthcare. It is industry agnostic and can be used by any organization as their standard kind of best practice framework.
So you said it applies to organizations beyond just healthcare entities now?
It does, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm sure this kind of blew a little bit bigger than they originally designed it to be. Now everybody's using it seems like.
Yeah, it's definitely grown over the last several years.
That's awesome. And they were just healthcare professionals that decided, hey, let's just, data is a huge thing, and the security of the data is a really big thing as well. So let's come up with this framework to just kind of build around it.
Yeah. I mean, when HIPAA first came into existence, the HIPAA security rule, there was a general lack of prescriptiveness, right? You need to comply with HIPAA, but you don't exactly know how to do that. And that's part of why they created the HITRUST framework, was to be prescriptive in HIPAA compliance.
Right. Well, so this is a perfect segue into the next question that I had, because I was kind of curious about this, because I know I've been asked this question a few times, and I want to give the right answer to people whenever they ask me it. So what is the difference in HIPAA and HITRUST? Because that's something that I don't fully understand the difference of. They seem kind of coinciding in one another, but what's the real difference in those two?
Yeah, well, there is a relationship, right? So I mentioned part of why HITRUST was created was the lack of prescriptiveness when it came to HIPAA. HIPAA is an authoritative source. So if you think of what HITRUST is today, there's over 40 different authoritative sources and standards that are mapped into the HITRUST framework. HIPAA is just one of those.
Okay.
So there's many more. Over 40, yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, that seems like that was a much straightforward answer than I thought it would be. Perfect. And then so I guess aside from those two things, now we've kind of covered a few things now. The last thing that I know that we've kind of dabbled on, that I've seen around our industry, and I mean even our company in specific, is HITRUST I1 and BC. Those are new standards? Is that what they are, or what are they?
Yeah, good question. They are new options from HITRUST.
Okay. And so within the options, are there big differences? Like, are there massive differences that companies are going to have to undergo, massive changes in order to be quote unquote in compliance with these new options that they have? Or are they kind of just subsequent, like, hey, we've updated a few small things in these two, or um, I don't understand what they really update whenever they go from version to version.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can explain that.
Oh, perfect.
The so in last December, HITRUST announced these new service offerings. The biggest one of the two would be the I-1 assessment. The
Okay.
traditional HITRUST certification that we've been helping organizations achieve for the last several years, that is called the R2, and
All right.
that one is essentially gold standard in the industry and in the market for certification
Okay.
or of information security assessments. R2 assessment is the industry gold standard.
Okay.
But HITRUST recognized that not all organizations need the gold standard, right? Some organizations
Right.
just don't have the same level of risk as other organizations. So if you're a company and you're working with various third parties and they have access to your data, there's a risk associated with each of those. Some of them are high risk and some of them are moderate risk based
Right.
on the
Right.
amount of information they have. So the I-1 assessment is created to be this sort of moderate assessment and
Okay.
certification that an organization could get. So similar to the R2, but it does have differences. Both of them have to be done by an authorized external assessor organization like LBMC.
Okay. Okay.
Both both of them go through the standard process with HITRUST, where the HITRUST Quality Assurance Group independently reviews it. They issue the certification. Everything for both assessments goes through HITRUST's platform called MyCSF, and I mean those are the similarities. The big difference is the R2 assessment is customized, meaning an organization answers questions about themselves, what type of organization they are, what type of
Okay.
data they have, how much data they have, technical factors, regulatory factors, which ones they want to include. So you answer a series of questions, and based on how you answer those questions, it creates a customized assessment for you and tells you which
Okay.
requirements you have to comply with. That can be
Gotcha.
honestly anywhere from 275-ish requirements
Oh my
to
goodness.
over 1500. Right? So
Oh, wow.
there's very wide variability
Right.
with what you get in this R2 assessment. The
Okay.
I-1 assessment is a static set of controls. It is limited to 219 requirements. Those don't change. Any
Okay. Okay.
organization that goes through an I-1 gets the same 219 requirements. So just based on that, you can see how the level of effort is probably a
Right.
little bit lower, right? If you were an organization that
Right.
went from 600 to 219, you can see that.
Right.
The
Right.
the length of the certification is different. It's only 1 year. The
Okay.
traditional R2 certification is a 2-year certification.
So for the I-1, you just do it every 1 year is what you're
That's
saying?
right.
And the
That is
R2 is
right.
every two.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And then the other really big difference is what the focus is. HITRUST, it can be a little complicated, but essentially, when you go through traditional HITRUST certification, you're evaluated against up to 5 maturities.
Okay.
So we look at policy, we look at process, we look at implementation. The last two are measured and managed, and those are optional. But you have to have policy, process, and implementation for an
Okay.
R2.
And so maturity is basically, is that I guess pretty point blank question. That's just how mature your organization is, like how far into documentation and understanding what you have and what policies you have in place that is. Is that what that is?
Yeah, sorta. So the high trust process evaluates an organization against those 5 maturity levels. And then for
Okay.
each of those, there's 5 compliance levels in terms of scoring. How
Okay.
so the score translates into what you're saying, Will, which is how far along are you? Are you fully meeting the requirement? Are you only partially meeting the requirement?
Right.
But for that I-1 assessment, it doesn't look at policy or process. It looks only at implementation.
Okay. So that makes a lot of sense then why the R2 is every 2 years and why it takes quite a bit of effort because it's really tailored to your organization. And that also explains why it's such a 5-star kind of accreditation the organization can have. And so, okay. So if that's the I-1 and R2, so those are the differences and kind of similarities between those two. Is BC, is that another new line?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So this is a really a good hygiene security assessment.
Okay. Okay. So
So
is it
it's
is it
it's a self-assessment that an organization can do, or use somebody to help facilitate that.
okay.
And it is just a self-assessment. It does not
Okay.
result in a certification like the other two.
Okay. So could you do like a BC and then kind of see where your organization sits and then you go for the I-1 or R2? That kind of
Yeah,
what it helps with? Okay.
yeah, you can. I mentioned earlier the whole high risk versus moderate risk. Well,
Right.
there's also this option, the BC, which is more on the low side. It provides a lower level of assurance. It's a lower level of effort.
Right.
Um, but yeah, and you don't have the selection of requirements and the complicated scoring and the validation that you would have with the other ones.
Awesome. Wow. Okay. Well, this is about 11 minutes of dialogue, and I feel like I've learned so much about these different things and the differences between a lot of them. Um, wow. All right. So basically, takeaways are I-1, so 5-star, gold star kind of assessment is going to be the R2 for HITRUST. Your next level down will be the I-1 that's not tailored to your organization, but um, it still does evaluate organization to a certain degree over what again? Maturity?
Implementation.
Implementation,
Yes.
that's what it was. My bad. Implementation, then BC is your self-assessment. So uh, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Robyn. I really appreciate it. Now I know what I can go and tell people when they ask me what the differences between these are and why they really need them or for what reasoning. Because I know it shows a lot of clients and a lot of other areas, whether it be governmental or other entities, that you're in compliance, you're handling the data correctly, you're doing what you should be doing. Um, so yeah, thank you so much, Robyn. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Alrighty.
Awesome, awesome. All about HITRUST. Thank you for listening to today's episode. This is William Parks with LBMC Information Security Cybersecurity Sense.